I think the state legislature is focused more on the sticks of the punishment or the penalties of not doing it, rather than providing the incentives or the carrots to do it. And I think that there's opportunity to create incentive in the state legislature so that local city councils will say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this because I'm being punished to not do it. Well, maybe we should do it because now we're incentivized to do it. And one of my mantras was always that, if you want to maintain local control, the first thing that you have to do is actually exercise it. And saying no is not exercising local control. Saying yes, let's negotiate.
So to the developers, right? To the housing.
And really to the constituents too. You have to educate the constituents. I had a housing town hall when I was mayor, and we went through the whole process. We addressed all of the myths about increased traffic, increased crime. Are we importing the wrong kind of voters? Are we importing the wrong kind of, disengaged constituents? We went through the whole gamut and dispelled most of those myths. We can see that the impact of adding 2,500 units on Edinger, we don't have the traffic. We have traffic now because we're under construction on Edinger Boulevard. But when you have higher density next to retail and next to commercial, you have fewer car trips. Fewer car trips is less traffic. And when you add new people to a municipality, you add spending because you've brought new customers in. So it can be argued that each household is going to probably spend anywhere from $10,000 or $15,000 per year where they live, which generates net sales tax revenue for the city treasury. It also, since you've added new housing, you've elevated substantially the property value of that particular site, which generates property tax revenue, which also goes to the general fund. And in a public agency, the three main sources of income for the general fund, which is the discretionary part, is property tax, number one, sales tax, number two, and transit occupancy tax, or the tax we charge for visitors and hotels, is number three.
If you like California Insider and you like to know what's going on in California, make sure to check out Epoch Times. This is a newspaper that started by a group of Chinese Americans because of human rights abuses in China, and now is starting to grow here. Make sure to go to the Epoch Times website and check out the California section, where you can get a lot of fresh perspectives on what's going on in California. Now let's go back to the interview.
So you mentioned that you don't think 13,000 is the right number. Is it too much for a city like yours? Because we were talking to a lot of different city leaders, and some have told us the numbers are too much for them.
Is the number too much? It's hard to say. I mean, I served on SCAG, and I went through the methodology, and I went through all the process. And before we had the second round from HCD, the number was 7,000, 8,000, something like that, which
for your city, for Huntington Beach.
Which I thought then seems like an awful lot. That's 5 times what it was the last cycle. So it's probably too much, but I think that the too much decision is going to be made by the market. Because remember, the housing, it's really a three-legged stool. You have the local agency, the city or the county, that creates the zoning or the opportunity for the building to be built. Then you have the state legislature, which creates either the tax incentives for low income or the penalties for not zoning. And then you really have the market. So the market is going to be the ultimate decider if 13,000 units is too much. So we have a legal obligation, in my opinion, to follow state law and say, okay, we're going to zone for the 13,000 units. If you want to slow it down, there are building standards that you can create, which we did. We changed building standards for the Beachhead Intercorridor specific plan, which could have slowed things down. And you can say, let's moderate this. But to say mandates, we're going to build nothing because we're mandated to zone for it, is really not good policy. If we were to say we're going to build something, and we're going to zone for what we're required to do and let the market decide, that's good policy because, quite frankly, new housing generates really good solid revenue. And we talked about the property taxes, we talked about the spending, we talked about a lot of things, and you create new vitality and new life and and who knows, that person that's going to rent that new apartment is going to buy a house there, maybe start a business there, or take that, big time engineering job at Boeing that just got vacated by somebody that retired, and keep that machine going.